There's a common assumption about World War II that soldiers had access to every survival trick imaginable. The reality is very different. Many of the most effective low-tech heating methods weren't widely used, not because they didn't work, but because they weren't practical in fast-moving combat conditions. Today, those same overlooked techniques are incredibly valuable, especially in a world where power outages, fuel shortages, or off-grid living are real concerns. If you understand how heat actually works, you don't need electricity to stay warm. You need structure, insulation, and control. Let's start with the most important principle most people ignore. Heat isn't just about producing warmth, it's about keeping it. During the war, many soldiers suffered not because they couldn't generate heat, but because they couldn't retain it. Open fires, poor shelter design, and exposure to wind stripped away warmth faster than it could be created. One of the most effective but underused methods is thermal layering inside a confined space. Instead of trying to heat a large area, you reduce the space your body needs to warm. In practical terms, this means building a smaller inner shelter within a larger one. Even something as simple as hanging blankets, tarps, or fabric around a sleeping area creates a microclimate. Your body heat alone begins to accumulate. You can apply this immediately. If you're in a cold room without power, don't try to heat the entire room. Instead, section off a corner. Use mattresses, curtains, or even stacked clothing to trap heat. The smaller the space, the easier it is to stay warm. Another overlooked method is ground insulation. Cold doesn't just come from the air, it comes from below. Soldiers often slept directly on the ground, losing body heat rapidly through conduction. A simple barrier between you and the ground can make a massive difference. Use whatever is available. Cardboard, dry leaves, wood, even folded clothing. The goal is to create layers that slow heat transfer. If you've ever noticed how quickly you feel cold lying on a bare floor, that's exactly what this prevents. Now, let's talk about a technique that was known, but, rarely optimized: heat reflection. Most people build a fire and sit around it, just assuming the heat radiates evenly. But it doesn't. A large portion of that heat actually escapes in one direction. By placing a reflective surface behind the heat source, such as stones, metal sheets, or even a wall, you can redirect that heat back toward you. This becomes even more effective in a controlled shelter. For example, if you set up a small fire outside a tent or enclosed space and place a reflective barrier behind it, you can channel warmth inside without filling the space with smoke. This is a safer and honestly more efficient way to use minimal fuel. Fuel efficiency itself was a major issue during wartime, and it's just as relevant today. One of the smartest techniques is using slow-burning heat sources instead of open flames. A compact controlled burn, like a small contained fire or ember bed, produces steady heat over time, rather than intense heat that quickly disappears. You can replicate this by using dense materials that burn longer, or by limiting oxygen flow to slow the burn. Even a simple setup using a metal container with small air holes can turn a quick fire into a sustained heat source. Another method that was rarely used effectively is body heat sharing and retention. This isn't just about multiple people. It also applies to how you manage your own heat. Covering your head, sealing gaps in clothing, and reducing airflow around your body can dramatically improve warmth. A practical example is wrapping yourself in layers that trap air. Air is an insulator. Multiple thin layers are often more effective than one thick layer because they create pockets of trapped heat. This is something soldiers often overlooked when resources were limited. Ventilation control is another critical factor. It might sound a bit counterintuitive, but completely sealing a space can actually make it colder over time, because of moisture buildup. Controlled ventilation, just small openings that reduce airflow without totally eliminating it, well, that keeps the environment stable. You can test this yourself. In a sealed space, condensation builds up, making everything damp. And dampness, well, it pulls heat away from your body. A small vent prevents this, while still keeping most of the warmth inside. Now consider heat storage. During the day, materials like rocks absorb heat from sunlight. At night, that heat is slowly released. This is a simple but powerful concept. If you place stones near a heat source, they store energy and continue radiating warmth even after the fire dies down. You can use this in multiple ways. Heat stones near a fire, then move them into your shelter. Place them safely near your sleeping area, not directly touching skin, to provide consistent warmth through the night. Finally, there's the idea of controlled movement. Staying completely still in the cold can make you colder, but excessive movement burns energy too quickly. The balance is small, periodic movement to maintain circulation without sweating. Sweat is dangerous in cold conditions because it accelerates heat loss. This is where discipline comes in. Managing your energy, your environment, and your resources is what keeps you warm, not just the heat source itself. All of these techniques share one thing in common. They don't rely on modern systems. No electricity, no advanced tools, no external dependencies. Just an understanding of how heat behaves and how to control it. And that's what makes them so valuable today. Because when power goes out, when systems fail, or when you find yourself in a situation where comfort isn't guaranteed, these are the methods that still work. If you take anything from this, let it be this. Staying warm isn't about having more heat. It's about losing less of it. If you found this useful, share it with someone who should know these techniques. And if you want more practical, no-nonsense insights like this, make sure you subscribe.